Welcome, horse riders, to Geek Salad's Retro Movie Reviews from the Geek Salad Podcast. I'm Andy.
And I'm Mike.
And we are here to right a wrong.
Yes.
Back in 2021, we decided that we wanted to commemorate the 20th anniversary of the release of The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. Figuring that this would be like a great way of kicking off December without having to go right into the Christmas kitty, as it were. So, we totally forgot to do this last year. So we are now celebrating the 21st anniversary of the release of Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers.
Yeah.
And just know that as we talk about this, we are talking about the extended cut, which I feel like in the grand scheme of things, there are very few movies where the extended cut is considered the official cut. But the Lord of the Rings are those cuts.
Right.
I don't understand how, if you've got access to the extended cuts, how you would ever just watch the regular cut.
You know, that being said, I've seen the theatrical cut several times.
Yeah.
I've seen the extended cut like a couple times before, but it's been a very long time. So I just rewatched it yesterday and just like a couple hours ago. But there were some scenes that I'm like, all right, they didn't really need to be there.
Right.
It's cool to kind of flesh out the world and all that, but there's some scenes that I'm like, I get why they were cut for theatrical.
Yeah. The one scene that stands out as I remember it not being in the theatrical cut, because these were all like opening weekend watches for us.
Yeah.
Was the scene with Boromir and Faramir. That was
the flashback scene. And honestly, that's one of the scenes that I think really I'm glad they put it in.
I am too. Plus, it also goes to show too how much better. Why can't I remember his name now? Denethor's wig is.
Yeah, John Noble
in The Two Towers versus the one they gave him in Return of the King.
Yeah, and it also just goes to show what an absolute asshole he is.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, when Theoden says, when like Aragorn is telling Theoden, call Gondor. He's like, Gondor's not going to come. Yeah, no, then there's no way Denethor is going to send anybody to help.
Right, exactly. And you had asked me last night. It's like, what if they did send Faramir? Would he have taken? Would he have been seduced by the ring? 1,000%. 1,000%. Because he's got daddy issues. I mean, Boromir had daddy issues as well, but Faramir had daddy issues times. If this were a different age, he'd be on the pole. Like,
you know what? I'm not as sure because especially like how this one ends. He has the ring dead to rights, and the that guard of his always says, yeah, you let him go, your life is forfeit. He's like, tough shit. Let go.
But I feel like that was after he got to really know the hobbits, and also based on what they had just gone through, especially with Gollum. I feel like the situation that Faramir found himself in versus what Boromir was on a mission.
Yeah.
And his mission, honestly, was to get the ring. And that would have been the same thing with Faramir.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not as confident as you are that Faramir would have. I think he may have eventually gotten there, but I think he might have resisted it longer than Boromir did.
Okay. You know what? Let's put that in the comments. Do you think that Faramir would have been more likely to have been seduced by the ring had he gone in Boromir's stead?
Yeah.
So overall, my thoughts of this movie have always been it's nobody's favorite. And that is by no means to say it's a bad movie. It is a very well made movie. In fact, I feel like where this stands above the other two, this may actually be the most quotable movie.
Yeah,
I feel like fair. Most of our everyday just interaction quotes come from this movie.
So it begins.
So potatoes,
Boil them, mash them, stick them in a stew.
yep, man flesh.
Didn't somebody
What
put that into like a boil them, mash them, stick them in a stew, stick them in a stew, stick them in a stew?
What do you smell? Man flesh. What do your elf eyes see? Looks like meat's back on the menu, boys. Which, by the way, I actually have a candle called "Looks Like Meat's Back on the Menu," and it smells like roasting meat. It's actually a delightful scent.
I was worried it'd be smelling like man flesh. Didn't he say, "What do your elf eyes sees in Fellowship" as well?
Nope. It was just this one time.
Wow.
Yeah, it was just that one time with Aragorn's weird, like, it's here then it's not accent.
Honestly,
I'm fine with it because this might be the best we get of Aragorn.
I don't know.
I feel like he's more of a standout in this versus the other two.
What I think I like most about him in this one, as opposed to like the first one, is the first one he's really like resisting the call to kind of become
right.
king. And the third one he kind of has to embrace it. This one you can see him like starting to grow from like, I don't want to be king. It's like, I don't really want to be king, but I kind of have to be.
Right. Exactly. And I like that because I remember like back when this movie came out and they were talking, are there any performances that could be deemed Oscar worthy? Viggo Mortensen was on the short list for this. Andy Serkis. I mean, they still haven't nominated an actor who is just strictly a voice actor.
Right.
Even though the physicality involved with playing Gollum, because he was on set the entire time.
Yeah. And like as I was texting Andy yesterday, I was watching it. CG at the and back in 2002, this was phenomenal. It looked fantastic. Now, like especially like when they were walking through the dead marshes, like Frodo and Sam had the light from like the sun.
Yeah.
And they were like half sun, half shaded. Gollum fully lit all the way around. It's like that is not the same lighting as there.
Right. And that honestly, that's one of the things, and this isn't so much a Lord of the Rings thing more than it's a Weta thing. I feel like they do amazing work with a lot of their practical effects. A lot of their camera effects are really cool as well. But anything that involves a digital insert really always looks like it's on a different plane of existence. And while you're in the moment watching it for the first time, you don't tend to notice it. But you can tell that layer of separation between a digital insert and the real world. It's funny too because it only gets worse in later Peter Jackson movies. Like it's really bad in King Kong.
Yeah.
It really stands out in King Kong. Whereas with these, because there's such a blend, there's so much in terms of practical effects, camera trickery, the fact that they had, there weren't as many like digital extras in this. There's a lot of just people.
Yeah. You want a great example of how fantastic this movie looks? The Battle of Helm's Deep.
Oh, Helm's Deep is fantastic.
But then like you kind of cross that with the when the Ents march on Saruman on Isengard.
Yeah.
It's like it looks good, but like when the waters are going over, it's like those are small models with digital people put onto it.
Right.
And you can tell.
Right. That being said though, the Treebeard model looks fantastic. It looked good too because that there was a lot of that was all practical.
Yeah.
With some CG enhancements in it.
I'm sure they had like a platform for that they just built the top of his head on that that Pippin and Merry could ride on.
Right, and they were harnessed in.
Yeah.
They were able to sit down comfortably and be harnessed in. The weird thing about Helm's Deep is that it introduced, like, the Legolas, he's better than all of us, because it introduced the, like, he surfs down the steps on the shield. There's a lot of that which wasn't in the first movie, but really gets its start here and then ramps up in Return of the King.
Yeah.
And then, goes to the, the Super Mario levels in Battle of the Five Armies.
Yeah, I prefer trying to not think about that one. That is just, it's not even good CG. It's just goofy.
It's just, okay, we get it. He wasn't even in this book. I mean, overall, I like this movie a lot. It's not my go-to, but overall, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is my least favorite of the three, but like you said, it is by no means a bad movie at all.
No,
and like building up to that, the climax of the Battle of Helm's Deep, that is absolutely the standout part of this movie. I mean, it's a great movie all the way through, but Helm's Deep is just absolutely breathtaking.
Well, and I feel too like it uses its storytelling efficiently, because this is the one where there are so many moving parts, because the Fellowship is broken, because you have to follow so many different characters to be able to kind of interweave those stories as they go.
Yeah.
I
mean, like for me, secondary to the Battle of Helm's Deep is the scene where Gandalf heals Theoden.
Oh yeah.
I mean, just seeing Bernard Hill kind of transition, going from like the possessed to like the king that he once was, is fantastic. And just like the battle between Saruman and Gandalf the White, and Brad Dourif as the
Grima Wormtongue.
Yeah, he plays a sniveling, cowardly, just despicable human being so fantastically.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, good for him. Found that niche.
Yeah, and it works really well in this. There's a lot of good little bits in here. He's, takes up very little screen time, but he does own the scenes that he's in, even when they're, they've got the, Saruman's got the powder.
Oh,
and he just, like, he sees the candle that Wormtongue is holding. He's just
I will say, one thing that I'd never noticed before watching this one that kind of actually gave Wormtongue a little bit more of dimension was when Saruman has his entire army. He just sends them out to, like, this would be the last, it's just slaughter them all. I never noticed before, but Wormtongue actually has a tear coming down.
Yeah, because he is a man of Rohan.
Yeah, and he's lived in what's the name of the town?
I'm just calling it Rohan. It's way easier just to call it by the kingdom than
he's
by the 15-syllable name that Tolkien decided to.
Yeah, I mean, he's lived in that town for probably years at this point.
Yeah,
and I'm sure he's gotten to know several of the people, so he probably
right, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, overall, I love what they did with this. There's this really great bit too that always just astounds me. It's the as the Battle of Helm's Deep is beginning again, it starts to rain, and then you just hear the sound of the raindrops hitting the armor, and it just gets louder and louder and louder and louder.
Yeah, and then you cuts to the inside the caves, and all the women and children hiding there, and you can just hear the boom, boom, the war cry marching in. It's the sound design in this movie, especially, it's just breathtaking.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, on a technical standpoint, this movie is They all are.
Mm.
All of these movies are technical marvels in terms of
Yeah.
what they're able to pull off. And to make this the middle chapter, I mean, it does a good job of bridging the two together. So you do get, that epic climax.
Yeah. I guess in the book, the battle with Shelob actually ends the Two Towers.
It's in the Two Tower. Yeah, there was some discussion as to where they wanted to put that.
And I looked it up, and apparently they decided to move it to the beginning of Return of the King because otherwise Sam and Frodo wouldn't have a whole lot to do in the movie.
Right, exactly. Now, coincidentally, it also came out at the Two Towers came out the same year as Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, which also had a giant spider in it. Now, it was purely coincidence that they moved the Shelob stuff into Return of the King.
Yeah.
Here's something that I really love about this the trilogy of movies in general, but even with this one, is that because these movies were all shot together, there was no chance for there to attempt to get any type of course correction based on, fan perception or anything like that. I mean, this was in post-production, when Fellowship came out. So there could have been a lot of different things that could have been done just to kind of like fix it or reshoots or anything like that. But for the most part, I kind of like that there was no way to be influenced by, all of a sudden in Return of the King, here comes Tom Bombadil, that kind of.
Hey, why wasn't Tom Bombadil in there? We demand Tom Bombadil.
Yeah, Tom Bombadil hasn't been in any of them because Tom Bombadil's a stupid character.
Yeah, he is. He's a hippie. He's a hobby hippie.
But what was interesting about this too is that Eowyn, they finally introduce a human woman character who is she gets better.
Yeah.
I mean, she's fine in this one.
Yeah. I get where she's coming from because she, especially when she's like swinging the sword around, and Aragorn kind of stops her there. It's like, yeah, she's a shield maiden. She knows how to fight. And she feels like she's just being, you're a woman, you can't do anything. But
right, exactly. Not only that, but she also is just like the constant in love with Aragorn.
Yeah.
Stuff is just it gets a little.
It
gets a little much.
There are 3 women in this in this trilogy, and 2 of them are in love with Aragorn.
Right.
One of them is an elf. It's like 2,000 years old, so she's not going to be anywhere.
Yeah. I also feel too that out of like, I don't want to call them wasted characters that could have definitely used more screen time. Karl Urban's Éomer.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen more of him.
Even in the extended cut, they didn't give him all that much more.
Right.
I mean, because I believe in the original theatrical, you do not see the actual scene where he gets exiled.
No, you don't. And quite interesting that they didn't just kill him right out, right from there.
Yeah, I'm just kind of thinking that maybe, I don't know, maybe Saruman's control over Theoden wasn't strong enough to actually have him kill him.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
because it is his nephew. So.
Yeah. My favorite Karl Urban role. It is a great role. It honestly is what introduced me to Karl Urban.
No, I think I've introduced a lot of people to Karl Urban.
Yeah, I know he also. I mean, this was after this. It's like you had to keep your eye on him because you knew he was going to do other good things. He's in the Bourne Supremacy second one. I think it's Identity Supremacy Ultimatum. So he's in the second movie. And obviously Bones.
All right.
And now he's in The Boys, and he's fantastic in that. But yeah, I do like him in this a lot. Again, I just wish there was more of him in this movie.
I haven't seen it, but I know you have. Dread.
Oh, You've got to watch Dread. It's so good in that.
I'd love to watch it, but I can't. You can't find it anywhere. It's not streaming anywhere.
Really? Because I found it like I don't remember where I found it. I'm gonna look that up right now just because I can.
Yeah, I haven't looked in a bit, but the last time I looked, it was not anywhere. You can find Judge Dredd everywhere, but not Dredd.
Well, so
who wants to watch Judge Dredd? Sorry, what was that?
Netflix and on Plex.
It's on Netflix?
Yeah.
Oh. Intriguing.
Tidy 90 minutes. But, you know, really the star of this installment is Andy Serkis.
Yeah.
Truly. One of the best looking, you know, lighting issues aside, you know, digital lighting aside, Andy Serkis delivers an amazing performance, which again is him. It's him on the set, just with a digital overlay. Really, with just a digital overlay of a character.
Yeah.
On there, but they let him be expressive. They did a lot of his facial expression. Terrible Viking versus Native Americans movie.
I don't remember that one.
Oh, I'm gonna look that up now, Kevin, because sounds terrible. But
I know Native Americans wiped the floor with the Vikings. That's why they never came back.
Yeah. But yeah, I love what Andy Serkis brings to this. The voice, the character, and also just the duality. One of the best scenes in this movie is when he's talking to his reflection in the water.
Yeah. And
they're having that argument.
And then you know, kind of a flashback to at the very end, when he feels betrayed by Frodo. And he's like, and you know, Gollum has got. Hey, guess what? I warned you. Let's take him to her. She'll take care of him for us.
Yep.
No. It's been a bit since I've seen the third one as well, but the third one starts with the flashback showing Sméagol, right, getting the ring.
Yes.
Okay. Because I for some reason I thought that started this movie, but then I was like, oh wait, no, it was the fight with the Balrog, the extended.
No, and I don't know if that was you know, and I'll look that up when we discuss that next week.
Hint.
Yeah, I don't see that movie, Kevin. But if you think of the title, let us know. Yeah. But I'm intrigued a bit. But yeah, no, he's so good in this, and just again that duality, that the whole the earnest Sméagol and just the wicked Gollum.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just trying to take a look at it now myself.
Okay.
There he is, Carl Urban. All right.
Yeah. Well, you know what else I liked about this movie too is the first time you saw an Oliphant.
Yeah, and that was from the theatrical as well.
Yeah, no, that wasn't the theatrical. It's funny because this is the movie where most of the stuff from the added extended stuff outside of the stuff we talked about earlier. Yeah. You know, the Denethor, the Gondor stuff. A lot of it does blend together better. I don't remember what you know, and you had mentioned the Éomer getting banished from Rohan.
Yeah. Being
an added sequence, but it does flow really nicely. What killed me looking at this when I was watching this was the 4-hour runtime. And I'm like, I don't remember this movie being 4 hours long. And then it's because if you're watching the extended version, the credits go for at least 20 minutes.
Yeah, that saved me because I finished watching it like literally there we go.
Pathfinder was the last thing I watched before going to Iraq for the second time. Go to pick up the movie because he won rock paper. Go pick up the movie because he won rock paper scissors. Pathfinder. Okay.
Sorry, what were we saying? What are we talking about?
We were talking about we were talking about the 20 minutes worth of credits at the end of this
Oh
movie.
yeah. Gollum leading them off towards Cirith Ungol
Yeah.
happened like maybe 2 minutes before you texted me saying you were getting set up. So that 20. I'm like, my pause, like, I still got like half an hour. Like, oh, there's credits. Okay, that saved me a lot.
Yeah, no, and a lot of it is because when we first got the DVD of the extended cut, we didn't realize that like a good 7 or 8 minutes of it are fan club credits.
Yeah.
So it's like, you get your standard credits on there, you get your production credits, but they added to the fan club for the extended version. But I think just an overall time economy of storytelling, I think this does a very good job. Not as good at you know what? I almost think it's a different assignment than Fellowship, because I feel like Fellowship is very efficient with its time.
Oh yeah,
this is very efficient in its time, but in a different manner, because they are having to split the story between the characters that survived the first movie, who we've grown to love, and having to follow them that way. We'll talk about. I feel for a long movie like this, time economy might be a good thing to discuss when we talk about Return of the King. But in terms of music in this movie, I like this Howard Shore score, but realistically it doesn't stand, other than like a couple of strains of which is essentially Gollum's theme. Nothing really stands out to me that it did in it doesn't really have like that big Fellowship of the Ring theme.
Right. And I mean, in like they basically like they carry through the soundtrack, the score of the first movie into this movie with a few minor extra pieces here, but for the most part, it's kind of the same thing.
Right. This is the only one of the three that did not get a Best Original Score nomination for at the Oscars.
You know what? Rightfully so. It's a good score. It is. I mean, I love the score of the first one, and more of the same in this one, which is fantastic. But nothing really new brought to the table.
No. It also was the only one of Lord of the Rings movies that was nominated for Best Picture, but not Best Director.
Oh, that's interesting.
It was a weird year that year, because this was the year that Chicago won Best Picture and Roman Polanski won for Best Director.
Oh.
So it is kind of interesting this movie still made it to the five, because this is back when they had five nominees.
Yeah.
But surprising that, I mean, again, I think there's just a lot of bias about animated characters that Andy Serkis did not snag a nomination for this, because he is so. I think he's better in this than he is in Return of the King.
Yeah, I mean, the bias against him is still going on, because I haven't
Planet
seen
of the Apes.
I haven't seen them because I'm not big on Planet of the Apes movies. I've seen all the original, and I'm done. But
they're very, very different, and a lot of it is it's almost like, in order to understand and appreciate the craft he's bringing in there, you almost need to see it without the CG added in, because that is truly him.
Yeah, out
there, like as Gollum. They had this thing called Gollum juice, which essentially is like green tea with lemon and ginger and something else, and it was there to preserve his voice and honey, because he needed somebody to coat his voice, because he was doing that voice on set. And if they didn't like the take, he had to do it again. And he had to, this was not something that was just strictly done in post. They had to set, they looked at his face to get the facial expressions of Gollum down.
And I mean, like, he truly does deserve an Academy Award for his mocap work. It's just I think the main issue with the Academy is that they're not sure how much of the award should go to him and how much the award should go to the CG people that put in all the
right. But as I mentioned, a lot of it is him. But they're not judging it based on the pre-production
Yeah.
Not the pre-production work, but not judging just the production work, not the post-production.
Yeah.
Work on that. But he's phenomenal in this movie. He really is. And I've only seen the first of the Apes movies. The one with James Franco.
Yeah.
He's very good in it. So it's definitely worth trying out because they're different. I mean, they're different than the Heston movies.
Yeah.
Damn dirty ape.
Just like because then it starts verging into like kind of post-apocalyptic, and I'm iffy on those. Those
Yeah, it is
so many bad ones.
You gotta have the time of the apes has begun. The time of man is over.
The time of the orcs is over.
There was that one scene in this movie when the Ents are taking over Minas Tirith. Not Minas Tirith.
Isengard.
They're taking the with the promise to Isengard. It was that great bit where Christopher Lee has that look on his face like, get off my lawn!
It's like, yeah, you know that forest is alive, and you know that the Ents are around there. Why are you risking it by tearing down the hillside? That's gonna run you, buddy.
Yeah, it is. But and the funny thing is too is that we talked a little bit. I mean, Sam and Frodo have this great story, this great relationship. It's funny because this is the last time that we really kind of get the duo of Merry and Pippin.
Yeah.
In this as well, and I feel like they did enough, but again, forecasting to Return of the King, where they are going to be split up.
Yeah.
And they're able to kind of show their own individual worth.
Actually, kind of speaking of that, I think if there was one other person that would be shortlisted for a best actor Academy Award for this one, I'd go with Sean Astin. Sam is so good in these movies.
And again, I feel like his time would have been in Return of the King.
Yeah, well, I mean, for me, he is so good in all three movies. He is one of my favorite characters. Period.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He's fantastic. He's good in this one. What's interesting because I feel like Frodo plays less than, even though he's driving a lot of the action, he kind of ends up sinking to the background because the ring is done. He's just very just the nature of the story kind of just forces him to be held back almost. All he can do is push forward, and it's everybody else that's actually going to create the action around him. I did like the bits with Merry and Pippin where Pippin was worried that Merry was, dying when they're being taken by the orcs. When Merry tricks the Ents to have them walk through Isengard.
Pippin.
It was Merry who told them to go.
No, Pippin.
It was Pippin?
It was Pippin. I just watched it.
Sam's character, absolutely Daddy Nitro. It was, again, Sam is one of my favorite characters, and it was such a nice return to form for Sean Astin to be able to do this. Very happy to see him.
Yeah.
Do that. But again, we're going to, I really feel like we're really going to be singing his praises more so when we talk about Return of the King.
Yeah, I'm even looking at the Wikipedia page here. It says Pippin asked Treebeard to take them in the direction of Isengard.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm just thinking of it because I know Merry is the one who got really upset over.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that kind of stood out to me because I knew when Merry was really upset, but it seemed like when Treebeard said, we're just going to take you and drop you off, he had just resigned to himself to just not being able to do anything. Pippin was like, oh, wait, no, drop us over by Isengard. We're small. Yeah. Closer to the danger, the less we are to suffer from it. It doesn't make sense, but okay.
But overall, this movie is This movie was a pleasant surprise to me because, again, it's nobody's favorite of the three, but it always surprises me about how good it really is. I mean, this is some masterful filmmaking. I much prefer, and I know this is sacrilege, but I much prefer the movies over the book.
No, I've tried several times to get through the trilogy. I think the furthest I've made it is like the beginning of Return of the King, and I'm just like,
okay.
I can't open my eyes anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I've read it. I've read the entire Lord of the Rings, but yeah, I like this because it cuts out a lot of the fat. It cuts, it's there. It serves to tell the story.
Yeah, it really distills the story down to what you need to see, and that's what it puts on the screen.
Yeah.
No Tom Armadale.
Also, it also took me a while too, a couple of viewings, to figure out why the Uruks don't show back up in Return of the King, because they're all killed by Fangorn Forest when they ran into the forest.
Yeah. Oh, and it's like in Mordor doesn't have the means to breed them.
Those right. No, that was strictly an Isengard thing.
Yeah. Interesting. I never really thought about it.
Yeah. No, like Return of the King is purely an orc and goblin, and mainly orcs. Goblins don't really even show up until the Hobbit movies.
And trolls.
So, huh?
And trolls.
Yeah, and trolls, exactly.
Yeah, the only trolls you see in this one are the ones opening the Black Gate.
Yeah, but we did get wargs this time.
Yes, we did, and they're vicious.
Oh yeah, that was a great scene. I remember right before the movie came out, I don't know what we were watching, but they were like, "Stay tuned for a special preview of Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers," and they showed a little bit of that where they showed Legolas just firing arrow after arrow after arrow, and it went all the way up until the two armies meet up, and then they just did the splash for, coming Friday, December, blah blah blah. But yeah, this was a lot of fun. I do love this movie very much.
Yeah,
I was so excited that we actually get to talk about this.
Yeah. Like I said, it's been a while since I've watched it, so it was a really nice refresher. It was really nice to catch back up on it.
This was always a pleasant surprise to me. Like, I love Fellowship, I love Return of the King, but this is always a very pleasant surprise to me.
And so, shall we move on to say what we're doing next week? Which
I think it's already been made perfectly clear. But yes, next week we are going to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the Best Picture winner of 2003, Lord of the Rings: Return of the King. We're keeping with the Christmas theme though, because there are elves.
Yeah.
In this one, as well as 'tis the season. So anyway, Mike, you are frozen, or am I frozen? Timer's still going. All right, I'm giving you a minute here, but let me just say thank you so much for joining us tonight. If we want to know, what are your thoughts on Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers, please leave a polite comment below. I literally want to be a dentist. And those are those daddy issues that are discussed in Desolation of Smaug, I believe. So yes, we are going to be talking about Return of the King next week. Leave a polite comment below about what you thought about Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers. Also, if you're new to the channel, thank you for joining us. Thank you to our live audience tonight, Nitro Daddy and Kevin C. Thank you so much for your input. If you like what you see, first of all, give us a big thumbs up. It helps us in the algorithm, as well as hit that subscribe button so you can get us every week. Mike and I do this every week. We also host a little podcast called Geek Salad. And I am texting Mike right now because I don't know what you are seeing. Mike looks completely frozen to me. Oh, I think he just dropped. He'll be back in. So anyway, don't Don't forget to subscribe. Also, Mike and I host a little podcast called Geek Salad. You can check that out wherever you get your podcasts. So Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, we are there. If you like this as well, you can follow us on the socials. We are at Facebook at Geek Salad Podcast and on Twitter, Blue Sky, and Threads at Geek Salad Radio. Join us next week as we discuss Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. I don't know if Mike is coming back or not. So I will bid thee adieu. And until next time, I'm Andy. That was Mike. Go forth. Happy Nerdful. Talk to you later.
Wow, I didn't
Hey.
realize she was going.
Yeah, it's going because you haven't stopped it.
Oh, okay. Yes. Sorry, my internet disconnected for about 5 minutes, and it
That's
just came
okay.
back on.
I wrapped everything, so we should be okay.
All right, cool. All right, I'm gonna end the stream now.
All right. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Oh, wait. But you didn't end this. We can still talk.
Okay, yeah.